Is it your channel? Is it a Burkhoff channel?
It is a Corner Comics Twitch channel.
What? That's a thing.
Hello and welcome to Corner Comics, your mostly weekly comic book reading club. I'm your host, Burkhoff. My friends and I get together, we share a few comic issues with each other, then we talk about those issues. I'm joined by my friends, Russ and Emmanuel. Gentlemen, how are you doing this Sunday?
Well, in these tumultuous times, I find for us as Americans, there's only one solution: Kanye West for president.
Oh, I was hoping you wouldn't work that into the conversation, but
All right. All right. I'm really happy for you. I'm gonna let you finish, but I am, I am indomitable.
nice. So yeah, we lost episode 31 from last week. Got an email from YouTube saying it had violated the community standards or community guidelines. The community guidelines don't really have very much guidance as to what it is that you should and shouldn't do. And I didn't think that the episode was any different from the previous episodes that we had done, and those seem to be just fine. So we are now on Twitch. We're streaming on Twitch instead of YouTube because fuck YouTube for right now.
Fuck you too.
For right now.
Yeah. All right, we got 6 issues this week, just like we did last week. We're effectively doing the same episode over because I felt like the issues that we picked were good. We had some good conversations, so hopefully we can recreate that this week. And as always, bringing 2 issues each. I've got Avengers Empire #0. This is another prequel issue to the main event that Marvel's going to do, their big yearly summer event. And then my second book is a crossover book from Valiant and Image from way back in the day that I never knew existed. It's called Deathmate Prologue. Russ, which 2 issues do you have?
I have brought the strange talent of Luther Strode, and I ask you, what if you had a superpower and that superpower was murder? And for my second issue, I bring you The Infected Scarab 001. This is Blue Beetle has been infected by the Batman Who Laughs with the Joker Eye Serum. Manuel.
All right. My first issue is Justice Society of America, issue number 49. This is volume 3. It is a 2011 run. And my second issue is a Comixology original. The previous one was DC Comics. This is a Comixology original. It is Stone Star issue number 3. The first issue started in 2019. I believe it is a current issue.
All right. So yeah, we'll go ahead and get into it then. The first issue, Avengers Empire #0. So this is sort of setting up, I think, what's going to be the main event of the summer. We have the Kree and Skrull. They've joined forces against the Kotati, which are a race that if I'm not mistaken, the Skrull made to fight the Kree back in the day. And yeah, gentlemen, what are your thoughts on the issue?
Manuel.
All right, the art. The art, I would definitely applaud for being very marvelous, pun intended. It is a definite Marvel issue. You can tell by the artistry, you can tell by the depiction of just the faces and the flow. The flow is very Marvel-like. Not Marvel-lite, Marvel-like. In addition to the art itself, you have the action. The action is great. I like the fact that Tony Stark, I might get some pushback from this, but I like the fact that Tony Stark is going from very much techno Stark to metaphysical, like the beyond, things that aren't necessarily tech involved, tech heavy, the mystical, if you will. So I like that bridge he's crossing. I just hope it doesn't go too far right or too far left, that he becomes more like Doctor Strange than Tony Stark. But all in all, this issue was great for a setup. I really appreciate the dynamics of the Avengers when they go to the planet, how there's a scene or a panel in which Captain America and Black Panther are both just surveying the landscape while things are going on, while the main people are talking. They're just making certain that nothing pops off, which is great. This is very much a team. They're cohesive. I appreciated this. This was a good issue.
Okay, I will agree that this is definitely done in the mighty Marvel manner. It very much a Marvel book in every way, shape, form, or fashion. I did very much like the art. I feel like everybody is posing. There is no panel in which someone is not voguing it up in that panel, right? Wherever their muscles need to be, however they walk, it is happening and is popping in every panel. Nobody, every stance with one leg back behind you, it's all there. Now, the Tony Stark thing, there's no bridge. He didn't come from technology in this. He just, all of this is not Tony Stark at all. He started everything of the history of Tony Stark ever in the history of comics. Tony Stark has a go-to when there's, and one of them is alcohol, but the other is finding a technology solution to everything. It is consistent. It is always that way. And while he has thought about other things, whenever there's a problem, even if it's a magic problem, he has always leaned into finding a technological solution every time. Here, not even for a minute does he. Not when it begins, not when he ends. There's no bridge. This is not Tony Stark in any way, shape, form, or fashion. He is a pretender. It is either not Tony Stark or written so inappropriately or so wrong with no knowledge of the character at all. You don't have a guy whose way of dealing with life is fixing problems, technology, not thinking about technology for the entire comic. No way. No way. That is not Tony Stark. And then again, you know, maybe they wrote it that way, but I'm thinking whoever wrote it messed up. They don't really know who Tony Stark is. But besides that, this is a very nice book to behold. It looks great. It's colored great. The sound effects are great. Badoom on one of the pages looks good. The poses are great. The return of the swordsman is great.
Yeah.
I like all of that. So even though Tony Stark is not Tony Stark, even for a moment in this book, everything else was great. And I'm looking forward to this, what all these books, however many books there are in this, going to be in this series.
45 or more.
So I'm looking forward to the ones I can afford to buy and read.
Yeah. I'll probably only be reading the main issues. So the two major players in this are the Avengers and Fantastic Four. I think they're each getting 4 issues each for their Empire books, and then I think there's 6 or 12 of the main just Empire storyline. I'll probably pick all those up. The other ones that are tie-ins, probably not.
X-Men, you have to.
I mean, X-Men's already on my pull list.
No,
though.
you don't.
Okay. But
You
this
don't.
this is Empire X-Men. So they're not on your pull list.
I gotta read the checklist again at the back of the book. Find out.
Empire X-Men #1, Empire X-Men #2. There is an X-Men book, but there's also an Empire X-Men book.
Okay, all right. So I'll get those two. Yeah, as Russ mentioned, the Return of the Swordsman is in this book, and he's brought back, I guess, through the Kotati. They have like, you know, scroll-like powers where they can sort of mimic, or I guess we're not entirely sure how this works.
The Plant Zombie.
Okay, Plant Zombie. My theory is that the reason that Tony Stark is acting so strange is that he's actually a Kotati clone. He's not the Tony Stark that we know. I'm not sure if that's going to happen. I'm not sure if that's what we're going to find out, but it seems plausible to me that that could be one of the plot threads. It'll be interesting because the final panel or final page of this book is the Fantastic Four riding in with the Kree and Skrull who have united to fight the Kotati. And the Avengers have seemingly taken the side of the Kotati, at least in this issue.
So does that leave the X-Men to take a third side?
Maybe, or maybe the X-Men just stay out of it, and they like, well, we're just chilling on Krakoa. Like, I don't know where the Summers house is in relation to this base that's on the moon, too. So at the beginning of the issue, the Avengers go to, what do they call it? Trying to think. There's a name for the area on the moon that they go to.
The blue area?
Is it the blue area?
Yeah, the blue area on the moon is classic. The place where you can breathe on the moon. There's one little pocket created by, I think it's Kree or Skrull technology. The blue area. The Watcher used to live up there.
So I don't know where the Summers house is in relation to the blue area, but maybe that plays a part with how the X-Men get involved.
Well, it's still the X-Men's planet too. If someone is coming to invade, I mean,
true.
It out. We're like, well, you never include us, so we're not going to fight with you. That's not going to happen. We know which ones Emmanuel will not be buying, though.
Not the X-Men. I'll leave it up to you guys to tell me about it.
All right. Any final thoughts on this issue?
No, I'm looking forward to this annual series.
All right.
Yeah. It's a great setup.
Transitioning, my second book is Deathmate. This is a issue that was a Valiant Image crossover. I had no idea that this even existed. I was just rummaging through some back issue boxes and happened to see the silver foil cover and saw the little Valiant logo inside of the Image logo and said, what the hell is this? How come I never knew about this? It's $2. I'm going to buy it. Basically you have the setup for what is or was an Image and Valiant crossover. You have Solar, Man of the Atom, meeting up with Void from Wildcats, and they have, I guess, astral sex, for lack of a better way to describe it. And I guess their coming together seemingly creates this new crossover universe that exists. So what are your thoughts, guys?
For us?
Okay. Two people having sex destroys or makes two universes combine. They're not even having sex in the universes. They're having sex somewhere else in another place. And because these two energy beings started bumping uglies, then all of a sudden, two other universes, people stop existing, people merge into. That is so much bullshit. Don't get me wrong, I love Valiant, I love Image, right? So I love the characters, and I love them even back then when they were even more ridiculous than they are now, right? Because they basically were giving me different versions of the X-Men. It's like every team was a different version of the X-Men on Image. I liked all of that, and I liked Valiant as well. And yet, the only way they can think of to make universes collide is for two energy beings to have sex in a different universe. There's no logic, nothing. I mean, I can only suspend disbelief so much. This is so far over the top. That being said, I like the art because it's certainly a product of the time. I like the characters already, but this is the kind of book that I would only read is if I was digging in the crates and there were five for $1, and I would buy all those books that I could, so I could have a stack of books to read that I would never have bought otherwise. That's my point. That's my thought.
Well, I was under the impression everyone everywhere was taught that if you have sex, the world would end. I mean, there would be some cosmic chaos. I was reading along thinking, yep, this checks all the boxes. It's exactly what happens. Uh, very tongue in cheek, but
Nobody
I really like the
hired-
art. I like the art in that it's very the not Void, because Void is the woman. The woman looks like Silver Surfer, like a female version of Silver Surfer. And what is it, Solar? I think that's the name.
Yeah.
Solar looks like just a red Cyclops. Instead of the blue suit, he has the red suit and he has the visor. Beyond that, it's dynamic. I really appreciate it because it's dated, but it's not horrible. It still stands if you keep in mind that it was back in the day. Like it's not today's comic. If you keep that in mind, the art is great. Looking at the void itself, or looking at the dimension that they're in, it looks kind of like if you've ever ridden public transportation here, or anywhere really in America, you see the covers of the seats. They have this specific, unique design where it's colorful, but
Oh my
it's muted
God.
as well. It kind of looks like that.
I never noticed
transportation
that, but yeah.
Seats. Yeah. So I appreciated that. It just brought back a lot of memories. Don't have sex, or else the world would end, and public transportation. So again, checking all the boxes. This is great for all the wrong reasons. Um, now the action itself, they have to have some sort of catalyst, something that would catapult the change. And sex does that. Instead of creating life, they not destroyed life, they just morphed it, made it an amalgamation of things. So for what it was, I appreciated it. This was interesting.
Yeah, to say the least, it was interesting. I want to point out that Jim Lee inked this book. He did not draw this book. He inked this book, which is very strange, I thought. I don't know if it was just something that came up and he's like, yeah, I'll do that. Or if somebody's like, how does that happen? That you have one of the best artists of the 90s. Like, yeah, you can ink it.
They didn't have anyone to hire.
Yeah.
I also wanted to make a note on the second page. They have a list of every body for no reason. Like, this person is the best vice president of marketing. This whole page has 3 logos and then a whole bunch of people's names.
Yep.
Nothing else. Valiant, the Image, Deathmate, and then Seymour Miles, vice president of advertising sales. I'm getting out of here, right? Teresa Giordino, account manager.
Yeah.
Right? Teresa Cespedes, traffic. The whole page, you paid for all these pages. You could have had some fighting or something going on, but no, you got a page of people's names you will never hear again. You don't care. None of the artists or writers are on this page.
No. Yeah,
Right?
they show up on the next page.
Right? So what the heck? Anyway, back then they did give you more pages for your money, so I guess I can't complain.
Thaddeus P. Green, janitor. Just random.
Right?
I like it. I didn't notice that.
So, all right. Well, yeah, the main reason that I brought this was just to share how absurd this is. Yeah.
Done.
Highly entertaining nonetheless. But anyway, moving on. Russ, your first book of the week.
My first pick is an Image comic. It's a 6-issue miniseries called The Strange Talent of Luther Strode. I'll begin you with this. If you ever read comics 20 years ago or older, there was always this ad that shows some guy kicking sand in the face of another, and he went and ordered a book which showed him how to get buff, and he came back and kicked that guy's ass. And this uses some of that in the story. And as I said earlier, what if you finally got superpowers and your superpower enables you to murder? What do you do? guys.
I'll start. The artwork I really enjoyed. I'm trying to think of how I described it in the episode last week when we recorded. Something about MTV animation. It does remind me of the Aeon Fluxes and that kind of stuff, which I always enjoyed. So I thought it was pretty cool. Originally, when I first opened this up, I thought, "Oh Jesus, I don't know if I want to read this." Dude's like, he's like flexing bullets out of his body, and it's just the whole scene is covered in blood, and I don't know what's going on here. But as you get into it, it is an interesting story about the underdog, and we see that the main character is sort of the skinny nerd with glasses that gets picked on, and what happens when he orders the Hercules method and is able to read himself into being a superhero. And after you see that, you get flashes of present day, past, and there's a scene that sort of sums up this whole book, and he picks a loose tooth with his tongue out of his gums and then spits it and shoots it like a bullet through a guy's eye. And I think that one scene sort of encompasses sort of what you're getting out of this book. And yeah, it's kind of interesting. I'm curious to know, is he like Taskmaster and Deathstroke with his martial abilities? I mean, he's spitting a tooth out of his mouth and like a bullet into a guy's face. So
I don't think that was him spitting that.
No, it
I
wasn't.
think that was someone else who has similar abilities, who has been captured and being tortured and uses that ability, which just to show you the potential of what he could do. But I don't think.
I missed that. I missed that both times that I looked at this.
Mhm.
That is interesting. Okay, so there's a whole host of these guys then that have the Hercules method.
Mhm.
All right, well that makes it even more interesting. Yeah, it's overall I thought it was a good book. It was really satisfying to see at the end. You have the main protagonist, the main character, stop the dodgeball and then throw it at the jock and hit him in the face, and his face just flies back and there's blood shooting out of his nose, and obviously this is the jock that's been torturing him, and so it's just kind of satisfying to see that, to get that at the end. So Emmanuel?
I like that he has some precognitive abilities. He can see the action before it happens, or see the possibilities, the results. That's interesting. Looking at it a bit more, it does look like Scott Pilgrim Scott Pilgrim on steroids meets Kick-Ass.
That's
So
a good
those
way,
two.
That's a good way to put it. Yeah.
I like it.
The art, it's great. It's definitely red. It's very much a Rust book. It's very, very much a Rust book. Right out the gate, you get murder, you get mayhem, gruesome murder, even not like murder light. You get this gory depiction of all these bodies hanging from the ceiling, in the wall, and this guy who you think is a complete badass, who was always perpetually a badass, but then you see how he was a scrawny kid, and you see the leveling up, which is interesting because he's the one that gets picked on, and then he can rip a body apart. From the Hercules method, which is ridiculous, and I love it. Like, you just read something, you exercise it a little bit, and then bing, bang, pow, how you like me now. You have all of these abilities to murder in such a fabulous way. All in all, this was a good read. This was a good book. I appreciate it. You, like Matt said, you kind of don't care for the main character initially because he can do so much, because he's like, all right, he's definitely overpowered. But then as time goes on, you do gain an affection for him because you can identify with him. Whether you're bullied or not, you can still identify with the odd man out, the underdog. So this checked a lot of boxes as well. I like this one.
I was also going to say it sort of reminded me of Midnighter from the Wildstorm universe, which is sort of the Batman with who's his ability to come up with all these different ways to kill you. So he sort of his brain calculates all these ways you can be destroyed before he even throws a punch. So he
Yeah.
knows exactly what punch to throw. So this kind of character does exist. And Midnighter does murder. So yes, DC does allow murder, just not in the main universe.
All right. Any final thoughts before we move on? All right. The next
right.
issue, Russ.
My next issue is Scarab. If you're the villain, the infected, this is Blue Beetle, the third incarnation of Blue Beetle, who has been around actually in the comics and even in TV for at least a decade. So he's not new. But he's always had trouble controlling his Scarab. But what happens when he gets infected with the Joker serum, and what does he become? What can an innocent become in this? And that is what interests me and drew me to it. Let me know what you guys think.
Manuel, let you go first. Yeah.
Okay. So right off the gate, I felt really, really sorry for the character because he's infected. He's infected. I think one of the first or two panels. So this does not end well for him. The Batman Who Laughs, that whole universe is just trash because that whole universe has been overrun by evil. There's no hope for it. You may as well just go ahead, nuke it, start all over, press reset, do whatever you have to do to just forget about it. So Jaime Reyes, this guy that most of us know and love, this fun-loving kid, has the Scarab Beetle. The Scarab he communicates with telepathically, or just sends signals, and he knows what the Scarab's thinking. The Scarab can communicate with him, and he's a teenager who wants to do right, so he becomes a hero. But now the Scarab has been infected as well with this uninhibited toxin. So every malicious inclination, every devious thought and desire is just open. He can do it. He can kill. He can murder. The viciousness of a uninhibited Scarab. This world is just gone. Like, chalk this up to done. The art itself looks like Tales from the Crypt. You can tell it's a dark story by the art itself. Initially, it's raining, and it just never lets up. It's all dark. There's a glimmer of hope for like a fraction of a second when Jaime Reyes kind of like wants to take back and no, I'll do right. I'll recover, but no, he never recovers. It's here. This made me feel emotions, so I appreciate it. Matt?
Yeah. I'll start with the artwork. I didn't really particularly care for the style all that much, but I do think that it suits the story. And one way that I would describe it that sort of came to me after the fact is it's chunky. I don't know if that's a good way to describe it, but it feels very heavy and dirty, and a lot of stuff is rounded and big. So it has that kind of quality to it. It's an interesting story. And the other thing that I didn't really think about until just recently was, does the Batman Who Laughs infect the Scarab, or does he infect Jaime? Is Jaime still a good person after all this? And does he just lose the battle with the Scarab because the Scarab is infected?
Well, okay, so you also have to consider that the purpose of the Scarab is to grab a body and become an advanced scout for something like the Brood. So the Scarab is inherently evilish to begin with, and has only been held in check all this time by Jaime stopping it. Right? No murder. Stop. Right? If you just watch the Young Justice episodes, you'll see that ongoing fight to keep it from. So if you can't fight anymore, right? So maybe it does infect them both, or maybe that subconscious Jaime, not the one that's talking, is actually informing the Scarab on how to behave, right? Because And
Okay.
because, according to some people who believe that evil is stronger anyway, uh, uh, maybe that evil version of himself is influencing it. I don't know that I don't believe that the scarab is evil uh, specifically. I think it is a machine that is designed for an evil task, a task that we would consider evil.
Okay.
And that task often overwhelms the user. In this case, not Jaime, but well, in this case, definitely Jaime. But so I think all of what you're saying is happening to some degree. I just can't say how much and who is infected and all of that.
Yeah,
Really.
because there's a interesting page where he's so the scarab sort of evolves throughout the issue to be more monstrous.
Yes.
Um, and there's a scene towards the end of the book where he's sort of I don't know, I say sulking or crying with like his face in his hands, and he says, please, I'm losing my mind, and the scarab's talking back to him, says maybe, but who needs it? That seems more like the Batman Who Laughs mentality.
Yeah.
So I feel like the scarab is actually the one that's infected, and um, which makes it the story a little better for me because
Okay.
Jaime's still redeemable, right? He's still a hero, and he just happens to lose this one battle with uh,
Uh,
with
so
his
you don't
soul.
want him to actually kill because there's a point in there where he says, "So and so's blood tastes like pitties in my mouth." So he did taste. You ain't getting that back.
No, but you can always chalk it up to temporary insanity, I guess.
Eight, eight Ghostfire puked him up on my friends.
Don't
Yep.
you hate it when that happens?
Yep.
Yeah,
Well,
when
you got
we
him out.
when we talked about this last week, I wasn't that keen on this issue, but coming back to it and having time to think about it, I actually feel better about it because it does raise some interesting questions about um, the moral compass and what makes up a hero, and so I think that it's much better written than I gave it credit for originally, for sure.
Excellent. All right. So,
Cool.
All right,
final word,
moving
Emmanuel.
on. Manuel, your first book.
All right. My first book would be DC's Justice Society of America. Now, this is the story of, all right, so you have the Justice League, who most of us are familiar with, but then there's the Justice Society, the ones that came before. You have the original Flash, Jay Garrick. You have the original Green Lantern, Alan Scott. And then you have like Starman, you have Dr. Midnight, you have all these other characters who have been put in obscurity if you just read the main titles of Justice League. They refer to them sometimes, but they don't really get the spotlight. Recently, there's a on CW, so that has ignited my interest in the Justice Society of America. Who are they? What roles did they play? But if they do, I don't know much about them other than their names and their basic powers. I don't know the personalities. So I think this was an interesting starting point. It may not be the best starting point to get introduced to these characters, but I found the art interesting and the storyline somewhat appealing because of the whole government aspect of things. What do you guys think?
I'll start because I know Russ has a little more to say than I do. um, yeah, the artwork I thought was a little lackluster, and I don't have very much experience with the Justice Society as do you, Emmanuel. So um, it was kind of interesting to see the different characters. I like some of the costume designs and some of the characters that I was being introduced through this. Um, I know we talked about the one guy, and I don't even remember his name anymore. The guy that has the crescent moon on his cowl,
Dr. Midnight?
Doctor Midnight. Yeah, I thought he was a really cool character. I would love to see more of him and check him out. Um, The suit that the first Green Lantern has in this is kind of cool. It's a little cheesy, but by the same token, like it's still really cool. So I was interested in that, and there is a network error. I don't know if we're ever gonna get this this episode recorded. This is so crazy.
Oh,
Can anybody confirm on Twitch that we're actually live?
Let's find out.
I should be able to cut this out in the audio if we need to.
We shall see.
I'm wondering if it's this issue that caused the.
It says we're live.
It does say we're live. Can you see us talking?
It's got the spinning thing.
Ah, okay.
Yes, I believe it's working. Yeah, it's working. It's
All
just
right.
delayed. Yeah,
Okay.
it's definitely.
So, apologies to anybody watching us live. I just have an error on my end, so I'm not able to see us. And lost my train of thought. The Green Lantern in this issue. I like the suit, even though it's cheesy. The fact that he is a lantern, I thought was kind of cool. The way that they designed it and the way that he glows and all of that. It was really interesting, sort of towards the end, where Jay Garrick gets approached to be the mayor of the city. And what decision does he make, being a hero that's sort of outside of politics and more as a servant of the people? And it asks some interesting questions about politics and the type of people that get into politics and what does that mean? And so it is a pretty interesting issue. I wasn't that keen on it because I don't really know all of the characters, and this is sort of a random jumping on point, but overall I thought it was pretty good.
Okay, I am a big fan of Justice Society, right? So I remember Justice Society. I remember All-Star Squadron and a lot of other books, which I will suggest anyone dig in the crates to find out more about. This was Justice before there was a Justice League. Original Green Lantern, original Flash, original Superman, original Batman. All these characters were part of this, and they were on Earth too, right? So there were a lot of times when there was a lot of crossovers, and the Batmans and the Supermans and the Flashes would meet. So I like these characters already. And I have an emotional thing for these characters, so I'm gonna kind of read whatever they do, which is why I'm very much into Stargirl, and I suggest you check it out. Probably one of the better CW shows, if not the best. They have more money.
That's being headed by Jeff Johns, right? Is he the one that's...
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's nicely done. Again, a lot better, sort of raised the bar. Maybe, hopefully the CW will get that and do better themselves. But you can also watch the show for free. It's on the CW, whatever their streaming app is, so it's free to watch. Feel free to check it out. But anyway, back to this. So I like all these characters. I have liked them for years. I like that they're older and wiser and more experienced than the characters you have now, because I would trust this Flash over Barry Allen any day, right? I would trust this Green Lantern over Hal Jordan any day, because this Green Lantern has years of experience and has played bigger at it than Hal Jordan ever has. Not to say that these other characters are not heroes, right? But so I like these characters better. There are a lot of characters that you may not know originate on Earth 2. Mr. What is it? Fair Play. Mr. Terrific is originally an Earth 2 character. Steel is an Earth 2 character. Power Girl obviously is an Earth 2 character. So all of them are here. I wasn't a fan of artwork. I think what bothered me about the artwork is felt like someone was drawing on a black piece of paper as opposed to a white piece of paper.
Yeah, it did have that quality
That,
to it.
that, that is the best way that I can describe it. Like someone had to draw in the whites of the eyes. It didn't just, you know what I mean? And you can notice a difference. It's not that it's terrible. It's that it feels a little grimy or extra black chalky or whatever in it that sort of took away from the visual of it. This is sort of, I wouldn't say it's the best place to jump on for this particular storyline, but you get to see a lot of characters. You get to see a lot of fighting. You get to see a lot of the dialogue because, again, as opposed to Marvel teams, these people are family. They are a team. They care about each other, and they are friends outside of their regular work. So I enjoy that. Um, I can't say that this is the book you need to read, but again, this would be another, I would say, dig in the crates and get all these issues because it is a good story and it hits all the beats for me. So I did enjoy it.
The fact that Alan Scott is in a lantern, I looked into it, and they did refer to it. He's paralyzed. He was in a fight, and his actual body is paralyzed. So that is functional. I don't know exactly. I thought he was just going to be like stiff-limbed the entire fight, but there's a fight where his legs are spread apart. But he doesn't walk. He just flies, and his body is. Yeah, he doesn't hit anyone either. Like it's all from his ring. And what's interesting is that even though he's fighting and he doesn't land a punch or swing or kick or anything, he still takes out a villain that the entire Justice Society was having trouble with. So he is overpowered in this sense, even though his body is paralyzed, which is great. I think that has a lot to do with his mental state as well. He's not in the best of shape physically nor mentally at this point. So I appreciated that as well from this character.
It also speaks to the challenge of having a Green Lantern TV show because that's a lot of power, let alone a lot of CGI.
Yeah, well, we've seen how all that goes over in the movies.
Yes.
Which is a shame because I think Green Lantern's a great character. It would be really interesting to see if they could get a movie right. But
well, they are Bad Robot. Is it that they're doing a series for DC for HBO Max? They've already said there is. I don't know if it's Bad Robot, but whoever did Star Wars last, that guy is doing a DC Green Lantern series that will only be on HBO Plus or Max or whatever it is.
Nice. Okay.
I'm looking forward to that.
I really appreciated the Flash and Green Lantern's relationship. Beyond the CW, they couldn't do Green Lantern there, so they did Green Arrow and Flash. They partnered them up. But in the comics, it's always been Green Lantern and the Flash as buddies. No matter what incarnation, it could be Alan Scott and Jay Garrick, or it could be not John Stewart, but Hal Jordan. And Hal Jordan and Barry Allen. So that's an interesting combination, those two teaming up.
I still feel like the Green Lantern Green Arrow series from way back then was very groundbreaking. So those team ups, those series were really well done and well received. I feel like that's the biggest Green Lantern team up as far as because they're both green, because their powers are so diverse in comparison to each other. Green Arrow is all skill. Green Lantern is all energy and power, and yet they still were able to operate together. I think that that dynamic of it, because Flash and Green Lantern, they both have a certain level of power. I think what brings them together here is that they are founding members of the Justice Society, and nobody else in the book is. So they've been around.
All right. Yeah, I did pick up Emerald Dawn. I was able to get the full, I think, 6 or 8 issue run of that for $10 or something like that. I have yet to read it, but I will eventually read it. That was the post Crisis on Infinite Earths reboot, I guess, of Green Lantern. But it's Hal Jordan again. Anyway, do we want to move on to the last book of the week?
Yes, let's.
Yes. All right. So you have now Starstone, issue number 3. This is a Comixology original, and it is based in an arena, like a war world type situation, where you have this big fight, and seemingly everyone on the planet, is focused on this fight. And you have Dale, the main character, this boy that looks to be about 13. I don't know. He's an alien, so he could be like 113, but he looks to be about 13 years of age, and his friend is in peril, is in trouble fighting this big tentacle monster beast on land. And Dale dials it up, and he becomes like this energy creature, and then he inhabits the form of this steel armor, and then goes out there and fight. I thought it was interesting because this is a great story, I think, for Stone Star. I've checked a few Comixology originals, and this one stood out. So, what do you guys think?
Since I was since I was bigger on this one, I'll start. I loved this. I went back and read the first 2 issues because I enjoyed it so much. This is what the Comixology original should have been. Like, the other ones are very lackluster and not that appealing. This actually feels like a polished, well done book. It does have the sort of anime manga vibe to it, which influences the art style. I happen to really like that, so I really enjoyed the artwork and the way that it was done in this book. I like the fact that you have this sci-fi story that takes place on another planet, and there are no humans. It just, you're dropped in, and this is what's going on. And it asks some interesting questions about sort of the nature of society's evolution. Because you have these gladiatorial battles that are going on, that are sort of reminiscent of ancient Rome and the stuff that happened there. Is that type of activity or those spectacles necessary for civilizations to evolve, or to become societies? I thought it was all kind of interesting and well done. The main character Dale, sort of, I think the last time I described it as Full Metal Alchemist meets Ben 10. Like, he doesn't really know what he's doing with the powers, but he has this ability, and his ability happens to be that he can inhabit a suit of armor as energy, I guess, is the best way to describe it. It was well written too. The way in which the dialogue was done throughout the book, you have this sort of omnipresent announcer that is happening as this battle goes on. Overall, really good book. I'm gonna continue reading it. Russ?
Okay, I will say yes, probably the best comicsology book I've read so far, because I've really tried to give the effort to that. Very much also like an anime, especially when the whole I'm so angry I'm going to do something really stupid and somehow I'm going to win, even though there's no way I should win. Very much like a lot of anime, anime that I have viewed. Uh, uh, to your point about, is this the way that societies are as far as combat? I'll say this: if the theory is that we have all evolved from animals, and are we finished in our evolution yet? Probably not. Therefore, those animal tendencies are always going to be there. And if you know they're going to be there, you need to have an outlet for them, whether that's the gym, whether that's watching sports from your armchair. You need to have an outlet for those emotions, those feelings, and those energies. And I think WWE and NBA and all these other things can't go away, because we haven't evolved that fully from our animal nature. We still want to hit people when we're mad. That hasn't gone away. So I think that if every intelligent being in the universe evolved from an animal, who's to say they're done? And what does done even look like? So yes, to manage all that emotion and all that energy and all those animal natures, you have to have something. Yeah, everybody isn't going to meditate. You got to have something. Some people just need to hit stuff, right? And so you need that. Some people need to feel it and see it and lather at the mouth over it, just like any good NBA game or NFL game, right? When
Yeah.
you get a good. So yes, this is the nature, I believe, of how we see intelligent beings. I don't see that changing. It's in the comics, it's in TV, movies. No matter how sci-fi you go, people can't seem to get past their animal natures, not for an extended period of time. Yes, this is very colorful. I like the art. I like the story. It's not necessarily something that I would normally read, but as again, it is probably the best thing I've seen come out of Comixology. So I have to give it its credit for that. I didn't.
All right. Any final thoughts on Stone Star? All right. Well, if you've been following along, this is episode 31. We do have 30 other episodes that you can watch on YouTube. But this is the first time of us being on Twitch. We'll be moving over to Twitch, and we'll be staying on Twitch so long as I don't break any community guidelines here. But you can also listen to us in audio form. Find us wherever you find podcasts. Spotify, iTunes, Google Play, Podbean. There's a bunch that I didn't even know that we were on that apparently we are on, thanks to Anchor. And I'll probably record an ad for them, and you might hear that in the audio version of Corner Comics. But yeah, you can find us cornercomics.net. We're slowly building up the website, and we'll serve as show notes, so you can go back and see what comics we've read. Hopefully in the future I'll tweet a little bit more earlier in the week. So if you want to read the comics with us ahead of time, you can do that. And then now that we're on Twitch, join us in the chat. We'll stream Sundays 9 a.m. Pacific. Gentlemen, where can everybody find you outside of Corner Comics?
You can find me on Twitter at Walrus. That's at WALLRUSS. You can also find me at blacksuperherofan.com as well as comiccreatorsofcolor.com.
Nice. My name is a bit more involved. So you can find me in the Instagram at EM_YOU_. Wow. I forgot how to spell my name. Hold on. Backtrack. Get your pad and pen out. Write this down. EM_MAN_YOU_EL. Take a breath, sip your coffee, breathe. You could also find me at EmmanuelTheStory.com. You would have to learn how to spell my name, EMMANUEL. Don't blame me, blame my mother. She named me that.
So the website is Manual Normal. Instagram is Emmanuel Phonetic.
Exactly.
All right. It's a good way to remember it. All right. And on that note, gentlemen, I think we did get finally a successful episode recorded. No thanks to YouTube. So on that note, we're out.
I still am not an X-Men fan.
So in regards to early kids,
Just for that, I'm going to bring an X-Men book next week.